show feels like it just started. There's big news in the world of the local professional football team. Brian Callahan hired as the next head coach. Announcements forthcoming here in the very near future. 615-737-1045 is the number. You can join the discussion. We'd be happy to have you. Get back to your phone call. Some of you have been waiting patiently. We will do so here in just a few seconds. I do want to talk about a little bit of advancing on this, not just the Brian Callahan. I believe Schefter had it first last night, right? It was either Schefter or Pelissero. I didn't see which of the two. I know they were right within seconds of one another. But either way, them reporting first on the news last night, and then trying to do some digging on our own about Brian Callahan, why him, what makes the most sense beyond all the obvious things that we spent, the better part of 2 weeks talking about. Vetting candidates, checking boxes. He checks the most. So it's my understanding here that his plan is to call plays. He did not call plays in Cincinnati as their offensive coordinator. That job was Zach Taylor's. Lucas, do you want to play again? We've played that audio of Dave Lapham so many times talking about the offensive play calling situation for the audience, but I don't think it hurts on the day that he's hired to play it again. This was Dave Lapham, the Bengals radio analyst, kind of explaining to Lucas in my absence last week the dynamic between Zach Taylor, the Bengals head coach and play caller, and Brian Callahan, the former offensive coordinator, now turned Titans head coach.
Because, I think to be a successful head coach in the National Football League, you can have a coordinator, you can have a play caller. There's a few head coaches in the NFL that do call plays, but there are still coordinators that call plays. And in Brian's case, I'm sure he would have a coordinator in mind that he would probably empower to call the plays, or it might be a joint effort. And, make no mistake about it. Zach Taylor calls the plays, but Brian Callahan is part of the dialogue with Zach Taylor every single play until, time doesn't allow any more debate or conversation about it. And then Zach Taylor will make a decision. But Brian Callahan has tremendous input on a play-by-play basis, even though he's not the voice that is going into the helmet of the quarterback in terms of the actual play call. And in terms of game planning, it's a big part of it. A large part of it is his baby. Now, he's got his other offensive coaches contributing. There's no question about that. And Zach Taylor, gets his fingers and thumb into it a little bit as well. But Brian's the coordinator of that, putting all of that together. And he's done a pretty darn good job. I think, too, from a football standpoint, a head coach, in my mind, in this era of football, has to be able to deliver a clear message. And Brian Callahan is as good a communicator as I've worked with. The guy is unbelievable in terms of having a message and being able to communicate that message. And then the other thing is relationship building. In today's era, that's a very, very important thing with today's athlete. And Brian Callahan is unbelievably talented in terms of his people skills, building relationships with, players, coaches, everybody in the organization. As far as a football coach, he's immensely talented. As far as being a human being, he's even more so. The dude is just one hell of a good guy, no matter what profession he's in.
Okay, it's a glowing endorsement from Dave Lapham. But the dynamic between him and Taylor is the thing to kind of highlight there. So, if Brian Callahan is going to come here and assume the role of play-calling head coach in the same way that Zach Taylor did,
which you're saying is going to be the case,
his plan is to call the plays in Tennessee. Who is going to be the Brian Callahan for Brian Callahan? Who fills that role? Now, there's any number of people that Brian Callahan will have connections to. And it'll be curious to see how all that stuff, how one willing to kind of describe how that's going to work with us, they're going to be. Are you going to expand on how much this is going to take you away from responsibilities that a head coach might otherwise have, who you're going to delegate those responsibilities to, how you and Zach Taylor orchestrated that in a way that did not hinder Zach Taylor from other head coaching responsibilities, right? Because at the end of the day, being an offensive coordinator is infinitely different than being a head coach of an NFL team. Now you're asking somebody to do both of those jobs in some form or fashion. It's not a small ask.
And Zach Taylor's been very open about Callahan's role in structuring the offense and game planning and on game day.
It's my understanding that their system in Cincinnati is as much Brian Callahan's baby as it is Zach Taylor's. So who is Brian Callahan's Brian Callahan? Well, Thomas Brown.
Moses Moody.
That felt a bit square peg round hole. I felt you missed Kendrick Perkins' voice. I felt you haven't played it in a while. I felt you just wanted to jam that one in there.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm not mad. It's just such a ridiculous audio clip. I forget how bad a moment that was and how many times it delights me to hear Reese Davis just kind of correcting him sternly. Moses Moody in the background. Professional broadcasters. Kendrick Perkins tumbles all over himself.
So Zach Taylor and Brian Callahan worked together in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
So that relationship was already
pre-existing
there when he brought him, when Taylor was hired in 2019. The names that we've brought up for offensive coordinator, Thomas Brown, Brian Callahan has not worked with. Liam Cohen, I'm not sure if they would have ever overlapped in Los Angeles.
No, Cohen was just there for the year, right?
Yeah, I believe so. The 2021 season?
No, 2022.
22.
Because Levis's down season after a good season with Cohen.
No, Liam Cohen actually was the assistant wide receivers coach in Los Angeles in 2018. So they had one season together in L.A.
Oh, interesting.
Cohen and Callahan worked together for one season.
Now, you know who else was on that Rams staff?
Thomas Brown.
Thomas Brown, who was on that Rams staff from 2020 to 2022 before taking the OC job in 2023. Lucas, he was a running backs coach for a year before they made him the assistant head coach.
Never overlapped with Callahan.
No, but that they thought that Sean McVay thought highly enough of this person to promote him from running backs coach. I believe, if I need to go back and look at Thomas Brown's resume again, I believe the Rams was his first pro job. It was.
That's correct, yeah.
The running backs coach. Mm-hmm. After being in college primarily, the former Georgia running back Thomas Brown. So he's in L.A. for a year before Sean McVay makes him an assistant head coach for 2 years, including the Super Bowl year, which was 2021. So it's not inconsequential. And they're all coming from the same system. And, you know, right now, if you made me pick a favorite in the clubhouse to be Brian Callahan's Brian Callahan, I would say Thomas Brown.
Why is that? Apart from what we've just talked about. Because from our conversations just now, Liam Cohen, at surface level, you would find more information on putting him as the favorite with his relationship with Will Levis. So why do you think Thomas Brown is at the top of that list?
Because he's already interviewed here twice. Because he was one of the three that they requested to have an in-person interview on the same day that they decided on a head coach. I don't think that's coincidental. Like I think there were some. Again, now I'm drifting into speculation. I want to make sure that I'm clarifying here. But I think it's actually. Can you play the reckless speculation sound, please, if you would be so kind? I'm pretty sure they told Thomas Brown, hey, this is who's getting the head coaching job. We'd love for you to work here as the offensive coordinator. We think you'd be a really good fit. Stick around.
You're pretty sure they told him that, or you are speculating?
I'm speculating.
Okay.
I'm speculating that. That's why I asked for the reckless speculation sound. Thank you. Jerry in Nashville is next. Hey, Jerry.
Fellas.
How are you?
I'm doing good. Hey, listen, it's always going to be about offense in this league. Y'all guys know it. If you don't believe it, look at the pathetic Jets. What a disaster. If you don't have an offense, you dang gone ain't going to win. The one thing about it, all this stuff will work itself out with the Callahan connection. But the thing about it is if Levis goes out there like he just did a line of cocaine every time he lines up and gets his shit knocked out.
No, Jerry.
Man, it was going so well.
You can't say that word. I do agree with him, though. Again, that's reckless speculation. Of course, we don't know that Will Levis is doing that pregame. But you can't do that, Jerry. Come on.
You agree with him with what?
That Will Levis has the appearance of somebody who would be ripping a line and running out there, screaming red-faced and veiny out of the tunnel.
He's an intense guy.
He is a very intense guy.
Which will be an interesting clash of personalities, too, right? Levis and Callahan.
Well, but that worked to Levis's benefit this year because he already kind of has somebody in DeAndre Hopkins, who is much more the Callahan temperament than is Will Levis. Trippin' Titan says you can't say bleep, the S word, but you can say the C word. Well, no, the C word is something that we as a show have banned. It's not the actual C word. It's our C word. How many people are just jumping in their cars for the first time, just terrified?
We're talking about the word collaboration.
No, you can't say it. Stop it. Pick something else. I'm tired of it. That's the C word. 615-737-1045 is the number. Unless he was talking about the C word being cocaine. I don't think that's banned from the FCC. Somebody will tell me. Anyway, we'll talk more about what Callahan's hire means for Will Levis and his quarterback resume next.